I think it's a very good question. I'll be very happy to answer that. Denmark has a public healthcare system, and it is based on the principle that it's free and equal access for all citizens. And this system, which is universally applicable for everybody, is being financed by the public, by the Danish state. So the Danish government finances the Danish healthcare system. And the daily running of the system is done by the local and regional authorities. So they have a certain role to play, but the system, as I said, is universally applicable, equal access for all, and financed by the public. So that has been so for decades in Denmark, and it is still so. What are the main questions we are discussing? I mean, in Denmark, we are very much occupied with trying to improve the system. It is a very good system, but it can perhaps be improved further. And we have noticed some years ago that the life expectancy of the Danes were somewhat below many other European Union countries. And so the government and the regional and local authorities have been doing their best to increase the quality of the healthcare system and to try to increase the life expectancy, which you cannot do from today to tomorrow. But in recent 10-15 years, we have had rising life expectancy in Denmark. So for men now it has been increased to 77 years, and for women to 83. We are still somewhat lagging behind the other Scandinavians, but I think it is increasing, and so that is many of the things we are doing are directed to the objective to further increase the length and also quality, of course, of our life. So I think that would be perhaps my answer to the first question. I mean, on the financing, as I said, the expenses for the healthcare system is financed by the state. What does that mean? It means that the taxpayers are financing the system. There is no medical insurance system. Those who wish can have their own privately financed insurance system, which we have in Denmark. Private companies deliver some additional services if you wish. As far as pharmaceutical products are concerned, which people need for their treatment, the customers, the patients, pay for that. But there are, because we have a public system, every citizen has a certain sick health insurance card. We don't pay for that because it's paid via the taxes. But every citizen has a certain card which can be used when you visit the doctor. So he gets his money from the system, but the citizen can then pay a visit to the doctor free of charge. But if the person then needs some medicine afterwards, the citizens will have to pay that, him or herself. But very often you get a restitution by the state. So the price you pay is only a part of what it would have been if you had paid the full price. No. I mean, depending on, now it becomes complicated. For most citizens which have the normal card, they have a reduced price which they pay. For other citizens who wish an extra coverage, so to speak, and pay for that, they get the payment afterwards. Most citizens, 90% of the citizens have one specific card, and then you have the possibility of having an extra option if you wish. If you, for example, also have a wish for other services which the public does not provide, you can have a private insurance, which is not financed by the state. But normally when the patients go to the pharmacies and perhaps need some products, they have that because they are part of this free of charge system if they show their card and give their registration number as citizens, we all have a registration number in Denmark, then they will register that and the price will be reduced. And on the priorities, I mean, the priorities are not always the same. I mean, we have some things which we focus on for some periods, and it can change over time. I mean, in recent years there have been a huge effort trying to make more efficient the combat against cancer. There was quite a high cancer frequency in Denmark. So I think one of the priorities in recent years was to have a much more active approach, so that can be detected much earlier and people can get treatment inside a certain short time limit in order to minimize the risk or reduce the risk of dying from cancer, and doing that very early. So that has been a priority for many years. It's still an important priority. Of course, there have also been priorities, so to speak, trying to convince people to have a more, so to speak, sustainable lifestyle, better eating, more physical exercise. There have been some campaigns on that, small spots on the television. We cannot oblige people to do that, but encourage people to think about that. And of course, we also have a system where we have doctors in the schools who can examine the children in the school. We've had that for over 50 years. Can also, so to speak, inspire the pupils and the parents to do something. And in recent years, we have focused very much also on a new priority, psychiatry. I mean, we had the impression that many of the psychiatric patients did not get sufficient attention. So we have given that a high priority. It's of course a minority who has that problem, but for those who have the problem, it's a serious problem. So we're trying to improve the treatment of the patients with mental health problems in Denmark. And then we have also been trying, as I said, to have more general health promotion and campaigns, and it varies of course in which sectors we give priority, but here, so to speak, the public from time to time defines new areas of priority, and then we allocate money for this at the hospitals. So we do that. We do that very efficiently. As I said, cancer was one priority. There can also be other priorities, but the government tried to formulate goals, and we are trying to do this in these weeks for the next 10 years. What are our main priorities? Because, as you know, we have an aging population, lives longer and longer, so many diseases will come at a later stage in life. How can we give people a better quality in life so they can be active in many more years than perhaps previously? So that is also that's being discussed in the government in these weeks. So I think that the intention is to have a number of goals which will be published in the autumn, being discussed in the government with the parties, with the local authorities, regional authorities. So we will set these priorities which the government then define, and that means that resources will be given, especially to these areas, in addition to what we do every day. Because the free system means, of course, that it's not just the hospitals who are free of charge, also the general medicine. If you visit your general medicine doctor, he or she is also treating you free of charge. There's a certain payment in for the dental dentist in Denmark, well, rather small, it's there. But as I said, the goals will be discussed for the next 10 years, and I don't know exactly what will be the priorities. But I said in recent years, combat against cancer has been one priority, and psychiatric patients another priority. But there could be other priorities. Now I'm speculating. I mean, an increasing number of Danes don't look like they should look like. So I mean, that's also a problem, not just in some other Western countries, some of them big, some of them small. I mean, with the increasing affluence, and people have much more money to spend. Some like the good things in life, which is very understandable. And if you don't exercise and look at television the whole day, I mean, you may not look like a sports star, So I think the government will, it's my guesstimate, one of the priorities will probably be to encourage people to more physical activity, have a more sustainable way of eating. And
true information campaigns.
yes. Yeah. You cannot afford people to anything. If people do not want to listen, they don't want to listen. I mean, but I think so. In that case, the free system also means you have freedom to do what the doctors would discourage you from doing. I mean, that's life. But we'll see. I was attending the visit, which at that time Prime Minister Putin paid in April 2011, and it was a very successful visit. And clearly we know that the now President Putin is very much engaged in the pharmaceutical sector and the health sector, generally speaking. So he was clearly also asking whether we would like cooperation with Russia in this very important sector. And I think the short answer for that was yes. And I think already we have a modernization program with Russia, Partnership for Modernization program, which was made in 2010 when Medvedev was to state visit. And 1 out of the 4 priority sectors is pharmaceutical industry. And the others are agriculture and maritime transport and energy efficiency, but 1 out of 4 areas is this sector, a priority sector. And we have many companies who are active here. I mean, generally speaking, we have about 200 companies who are active in Russia. And no, generally speaking. In the healthcare, we have a number of companies, perhaps about 10, who are very active. Novo Nordisk is by far the biggest. They have 30,000 employees in the whole world, and they also are active here. Other companies are Lundbeck, who are also a huge company, and Ferrosan. And they are all present at the Russian market today. And they are all trading with Russia. As you also know, that Novo Nordisk will also has been investing in Russia, which we come to later. There's a Danish investment in Kaluga region, where a new production of insulin probably will start about 1 year from now. So that is a very clear indication of the interest the Danish business have in Russia. So we have been assisting that because we have very good contacts with the authorities of Kaluga, which also is a very investor-friendly region. I think Kaluga, without saying something about others, they are one of the most successful oblasts to attract foreign investments. I think one of the deputy governors will be here tonight. So we assist Novo Nordisk in these contacts. I have contact with the governor, deputy governors. I have been there with the companies. So the embassy tries to do whatever we can. We also try to organize in a so-called health club where the Danish companies meet and where we exchange information about the market and the market possibilities. We try to mobilize them, so to speak, as a group to be active, exploring the possibilities at the Russian market for trade and for investment. So we are very active in that respect. We are also trying to invite the Russian authorities to go to Denmark because, for example, the Kaluga governor will go to Denmark in September, I think. So, because if you want to discuss, learn from Danish experiences, not just have investments and trade, but if you want to see on the spot how our healthcare system is functioning, it's useful for the governors, for the mayors, for the directors of the administration, for the chief doctors at the hospitals to have a look. So we have already had visits from the regions to Denmark, and as I said, we are planning a visit from the governor of Kaluga to Denmark. I think the governor of Khanty-Mansijsk will also be going in next month So we are trying to invite the Russian regional leaders to go to Copenhagen, of course, to learn if they think it's interesting, they do. And of course, when they meet Danish ministers, they meet Danish regional authorities, they visit Danish companies, of course, who can deliver services and investments. They visit Danish hospitals and have discussions with the surgeons there and the other doctors. So we try to as an embassy, to stimulate and encourage trade with Russia, investment in Russia, and also contacts between the relevant authorities. And I think we have an important role as an embassy, because both in Russia and in Denmark, the health sector is very much influenced by the public in different ways in Russia and Denmark, but also in Denmark. I mean, it's being financed by the state, it's being regulated by the laws and decrees from the ministries. So certainly, because it's a very much a sector managed by the public, that means, of course, that we as an institution, as a part of the Danish Foreign Ministry, State Department, we have a role to play, and we're happy to do that. And it's, for me, it's also today with Novo Nordisk, I spend a lot of my time on these activities, and of course I focus on the areas which are most important. I do not focus on those who are unimportant. So this sector, also in my work as ambassador here and vis-à-vis Denmark, is important, and that's why we have contact with Novo Nordisk and the other companies, and also with their partners in Russia. No, I think for the time being, I don't think there are any. I'm not aware of any medical equipment producers. It's pharmaceutical products, but I think the important thing is that I think this Novo Nordisk investment, of course, is very much being seen also in Denmark as a first big, not just trade, but direct investment. So we hope very much that this could inspire other Danish companies to go for investments in Russia, more cooperation with Russian partners. And the challenge, of course, we have is that Russia is a huge country, and the market conditions are different from Denmark, of course. So we have to motivate not just the big companies, and Novo Nordisk is a big company with 30,000 employees. Lundbeck is also big, Ferrosan is big, but we also would like to motivate the small companies and the medium-sized companies to cooperate with Russian companies. It could be trade, it could be investment, it could be a sale of information technology. We want to motivate not just the big ones, but the small ones to cooperate. And that is a process. It takes time. You have to tell them that this is there are good investment and trading opportunities in Russia, because we know, and we are telling the Danish companies, that there will be much more resources allocated to the health sector until 2020. And of course, from that follows opportunities for Russian companies, but of course also for foreign companies. So they should be very much aware that now is really a time frame for being even more active vis-à-vis the Russian market and the Russian authorities. So that's what we try to do as actively as we can. And as I said, not just on a commercial basis and as regards investment, but also trying to stimulate Russian interest for the way we organize our health system. Because I think we know there is an interest for that. So that's also a part of the cooperation. May I add one thing perhaps which is important, interesting? We have every year a meeting and the Intergovernmental Committee, where on the Russian side it's the Minister for Transport who is presiding, because transport of course is an important sector. So every year there's a Danish-Russian Economic Commission at ministerial level which meets, and you have the same with other countries. And at the recent meeting in April, because this is important, we made a new working group for health. It did not exist before. So we are trying to give health also a higher priority in the state-to-state cooperation. And in this working group for health, of course, its task is to increase the cooperation. And we have said to the companies in Denmark, you are most welcome, and they are there, attending the meetings, participating in the meetings, where they will get contact with Russian partners and Russian authorities. And we also invite the Russian authorities, and not just from Moscow, to be there. So I think this is a very good example of where we have given higher priority, because until 1 year ago, the Danish Ministry for Health was not so active externally vis-a-vis to European Union countries, yes, but not Russia. Because there's been no tradition for that. And we said, this is important, I think you should try to be more active, and now they are. So we're very happy with this new development, which it is. To answer that briefly, I mean, we are in contact with the regions. I think we have been very much in contact with the St. Petersburg city and Oblast, and we also have contacts with the Moscow Gorod, and I think there's a hospital project, in fact, in Vladivostok later this spring, which a Danish company is very active in. I think it'll be inaugurated in June, as far as I know. So the companies are very active on that. And when you say when we could have meetings with the authorities, of course, you will have to have meetings with the authorities to know what are the options, what are the possibilities. And at the health club we have established, I mean, it's very active in engaging meetings with St. Petersburg city government. I think they've also met Moscow. We are also trying to organize Danish days and visits to other parts of Russia. So we are very much aware that we should be active vis-a-vis the big cities, population centers, where the big projects are. So we are in fact doing this, but it's a huge project and a huge country. So we have to be selective. But the way we do this, also when we invite the local authorities to visit Denmark, is also, of course, to give them more impression as to what we can do. But I think here we are in the beginning of a phase, but I think you are right that Danish companies should be able to contribute to this development, and I think that via the close contacts we have with the local authorities and regional authorities, I think the ambition is to do these and other projects. So I think that, but I think we are here in a new phase where we, so to speak, do not talk anymore about production of pharmaceuticals, but of much more systemic projects, which will then necessitate very close cooperation with authorities. But we are very much aware of this, and we have also said that to our companies that they should be aware of that. So I think also in this area, I believe there will be increasing cooperation in those regions where the Danish companies find it most attractive, and it can vary from region to region, the number of investments, what investments, possibilities can they offer. So I think also on the Russian side will have, so to speak, to prepare a good level playing field for foreign companies to be active. But I'm sure that will be, we are very much aware of that, but I think in the next phase of our cooperation in this sector, this will be more important than today. And the more visit we can have from ourselves with the companies to the regions, and the more visit we can have from the Russian regions to Denmark, the more we can also perhaps define areas of cooperation.